there, but that's where we're going to camp for most of the night. Mark 8:34, probably a familiar verse to a lot of you. Yes. Hello.
Ryan found some more.
Hello. I'm here. Sorry, I shouldn't look down too. So it's a familiar verse to a lot of you, Mark 8:34. But before we get there, I want you to understand that Christ is talking about the gospel in this passage. And it's not probably the gospel you heard as a little kid. And we've talked about this recently. I want to continue to talk about it. And here's why. I am burdened about something. Do you know, Pastor Phil a couple of weeks ago gave a rate of teens leaving the church after they graduate high school. Do you remember what he said it was? He said it was in the 70s. It's 82%. 82% of kids in evangelical churches leave the church when by their sophomore year in college. Now, by God's grace, we're not even close to that percentage. However, it's a higher percentage than I'd like to see coming out of our church. And I think one of the reasons is this. Going to church and being the church are two different things. Okay, are you with me? Going to church and being the church are two different things. What do I mean by that? Somebody tell me what I mean by that. What do I mean going to church and being the church? Somebody tell me what that means. Yeah, go ahead.
Spreading the word instead of just listening to it.
Okay, that's a part of it. Yeah, Anna. Okay. And going to church is just going. Okay, anybody else? Anybody else? Yeah. Okay, all right. Anybody else? Anybody else? Justin, where's Justin? Is he up here still? What do you think? What do you think when I say going to church and being the church? What's the difference between that?
It's the difference between inhabiting a building and taking that message out and living it out.
Okay. Here's the difference. The difference is Christ being in you or you being in the building. Okay? So anybody can be in the building, but Christ does not dwell in everyone. So what am I getting at here? Here's what I'm getting at. I think that of that 82% that are leaving the church, 82% of them probably don't know Christ. Pastor Jack, that's a harsh thing to say. You don't leave the church if you are the church. If Christ indwells you, you are the church, so you don't leave it. So that's the only thing that makes sense to me in my brain. So the concern is this. When you leave this building and you go out into the world that you're going to go into, do you only know youth group or do you know Jesus Christ? Because I don't care if you know the youth group. I don't care if you attend to Kingdom Come. If you don't know Christ when you leave here, we've accomplished nothing. That's my burden. So let's talk about what an accurate gospel presentation is. So here we go. The call of Christ, that's the title of the message. So the accurate gospel presentation. Number one, salvation is a gift of grace. Salvation is a gift of grace, and I believe that I have a passage of Scripture that communicates that. Somebody on this side, read it nice and loud for us. Please, go ahead, nice and loud.
For by the grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast.
Okay, so clearly we see that salvation isn't something that I do. Salvation, Miranda, you need to sit, okay, sweetheart? Salvation is not something that I do. Salvation is something that I receive by grace. Okay? So salvation is something that I receive by grace. It's not something that I do. The question then that prompts us is, what in the world is grace? And thankfully we have a definition for that. Here we go. Grace is a gift you don't deserve. Grace is a gift you don't deserve. Now, for this, to illustrate this, I am going to bring Elijah up. Elijah, come here, son. Come here, little buddy. Come on. Time for you to come up. Okay. I prepped him a little bit for this. He just knows there's candy involved. So, all right, buddy. Elijah's 4 for those of you that don't know him as well. Come on up, come on up. Now, Elijah, I'm going to give you your choice. I have a $20 bill, and I have 2 candy bars that you got to choose earlier. I know, right? So, which do you choose? Okay, now what, Elijah? What if I told you that the $20 is better than the candy bar? What do you choose now? You really want this candy? Did I get a kiss? All right, have a kiss. All right, here you go, buddy. That's yours. All right, get out of here. I heard a mom saying, take the money back there. Thanks a lot. I don't have that much to give, right? So here's the deal. Was that a free gift that I gave him? Did I give him a free gift? Well, I kind of made him give me a gift, but all in all, we could say, yeah, that was a free gift. It was the gift of grace. Can I just tell you, though, that's a great picture. That's a great picture of what salvation can look like when it doesn't go right. Which was more valuable, really, the candy or the $20? $20, right? But to a 4-year-old that really isn't allowed to go to the store by himself or ever buy $20 worth of candy, the 2 candy bars seemed more valuable, right? And I think, you guys, that's where we are when it comes to kids leaving the church. I don't think that you, teenagers, I don't think that you're seeing the value of Christ. I think you're seeing the candy that the world has to offer. I think you see everything that the world offers you and you say, that's really cool, that's really good. I like sports better than Jesus. I like singing better than Jesus. I like Miley Cyrus and Justin Bieber better than Jesus. I like shoes better than Jesus. I like video games better than Jesus. I like the internet better than Jesus. I like porn better than Jesus. I like slander and gossip better than Jesus. I like to do what I want to do when I want to do it better than Jesus. And that's a ton of candy bars. And the one of great worth is sitting there offering you himself. And here's what we do with him. We say, you know what? I'm going to go and sit and let people talk to me about the one of great worth. But when I'm on my time, it's my time. I'll give Jesus his time. But when it's my time, and I'm eating my candy. And can I just tell you that Jesus is staunchly opposed to that. And if you think that that's the way you can live, and that you're a child of God in living that way, I have to tell you, you're not. That's not being a child of God. It just isn't. So, let's continue to look at what an accurate presentation of the gospel is. Okay? Accurate presentation of the gospel. Salvation is a gift of grace, but salvation produces a correlating lifestyle. Now, you need to understand this really clearly. So everybody look at me for a minute. Everybody. Looking up. You do not work your way to heaven. Nothing you do can get you to heaven ever. Very, very clearly, that can't happen. However, if you are a child of God, if you choose the 20 instead of the candy, okay? If you choose Christ instead of what this world has to offer, your lifestyle will absolutely reflect it. Every time. You can't help but reflect it. Let's look at some scriptures that communicate that. Over here, because we had somebody over there read it last. Actually, do you mind reading that again, Brandon? Is that okay? Same verse with an extra verse attached to the bottom. Do you mind reading again? Thanks.
For by the grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not your own doing. It is the gift of God, not a result of works, so that no one may boast.
All right, now stop there for a minute. Clear as day You can't work your way to heaven. Why? Because works could result in some kind of arrogance. And God hates arrogance. But I want you to see what verse 10 says. Go to verse 10. Go ahead and read that.
We are his workmanship, created in Christ Jesus for good works, which God prepared beforehand that we should not walk in them.
That we should walk in them, yes. I want you to understand this. The top side says, it's all grace. The bottom side says, once you have that grace, it comes out. It leaks out of you. Next verse. Somebody on this side. Would somebody be willing? Yeah, go ahead.
What good is it, my brothers, if someone says he has faith but does not have works? Can that faith save him? Faith by itself, if it does not have works, is dead. But someone will say, you have faith, and I have works. Show me your faith apart from your works, and I will show you my faith by my works. You believe that God is one. You do well. Even the demons believe and shudder. Faith apart from works is useless.
Faith apart from works is useless. Now, again, I will say this time and time and time and time and time again. You cannot work your way to heaven. But understand this. Once you are a child of God, once you have chosen the great treasure that this entire universe has to offer, it will come out in works. So here's the question. What are works? And I think we have a good definition here, a really good working definition. Works are a lifestyle of both activity and restraint that reflect God's character and His glory. I'll say that again. Works are a lifestyle of both activity and restraint that reflects God's character and His glory. Here's what that means, you guys. That means there's going to be some stuff that you don't do because you love Jesus. That's the restraint. And then there's going to be some stuff that you, I'm going to say do, but don't laugh, that you do because you love Jesus. Now I know what you guys think of right away. All of you guys are like, I need to share the gospel. That is a portion of what it means to live as Christ. That's a portion of it. And you should share the gospel. But if you're sharing the gospel out of compulsion, because you have to, because it's what's right to do, that's not reflecting God's glory. It's reflecting something you have to do. When you're a child of God, you can't help but to communicate things like that. When you're a child of God, it's easy for you to say no. Maybe sometimes it's even hard for you to say no, but it's way harder to say yes to things that you know you shouldn't do. Works are a lifestyle of both activity and restraint that reflect God's character and His glory. Now let's look at Mark chapter 8, okay? Everybody in your Bibles, your cell phones, your tablets, your iPods, whatever else you got, right? Here's what it says, Mark chapter 8, verse 34. And calling the crowd to Him. Now, this is important. We know that Jesus now is talking to everybody, not just His disciples. This is not like something you can say, well, He was just talking to His disciples there because He was going to start the church with His disciples. No, He is talking to like 3,000 people. He's talking to everybody, okay? He calls the crowd to Him with His disciples, and He says to them, if anybody would come after me, here's what you do. Deny himself, take up his cross, and follow me. For whoever would save his life would lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake and the gospel's, he will save it. What will it profit a man to gain the whole world and forfeit his soul? And what can a man give in return for his soul? For whoever is ashamed of me and my words in this adulterous and sinful generation, of him will the Son of Man be ashamed when He comes in the glory of the Father, the holy angels. So there's three things, and I want to get them across to you relatively quickly here. Number one, deny myself. It's an expectation of serving. So I want you to read that last white part. When I say deny myself, it's an expectation of serving. When I say deny myself, it's an expectation of serving. Okay, all right. So serving is not limited to the body to this church building. Okay? Serving is not limited to here. But I want to use this as a great example because when you're a child of God, you love to serve His body. You love to serve His people. So I got a couple questions for you that I want you to answer. So here, let's go to the next slide here. How do you look at your church experience? When you come to church, how are you looking at your church experience? Number one. First one, you got it up there? Do you appreciate the leaders and their sacrifices? I am not talking about me, and I'm not talking about Justin. I'm talking about the men and women that surround you every single week. Do you show them love and respect and thankfulness? Or do you just kind of expect them to be there and think maybe even bad thoughts when they don't make it? Because I know this, guys. Those that are serving in youth ministry are serving you because they're serving Jesus Christ. Do they miss sometimes? Yeah, they miss sometimes. But they're here because they love Jesus Christ. And their church experience on a Wednesday night, while it could be to go and learn and grow in their environment amongst their friends, they are here for you because of Him. I want you to wrap your heart around that because they're teaching you something that you cannot learn in a textbook. Number two, do you expect to be catered to? Are you coming here on a weekly basis expecting people to have to come and reach out to you all the time and bring you in? Or are you coming with an expectation to serve others? How are you coming to youth group? Number three, do you see your church experience as your experience or the collective experience of many who need your participation? This is so important. This is so vital to understanding where you are in your spiritual walk. Is your church experience about your experience here? I like the worship. I don't like the worship. I like Pastor Jack. I can't stand Pastor Jack. I like my small group leader. I don't like my small group leader. Or is it, I am going tonight to fellowship with 70, 80 other kids, and I want to encourage them. I want to be there for them. I want to love them. I want to lift them up. I want to share a testimony of God's grace in my life to them. I know so-and-so kind of sits in the corner. I want to get alongside of them. I know so-and-so needs me to ask the hard question to them. So I can't wait to meet up with that person. What is your church experience like? Last one. How do you regularly participate in church ministry for the benefit of others? I know some of you do this, and I'm thankful for that. He's not here tonight, so I can say it. Danny Mulder is here all the time. I can't. Now he's homeschooled, so he has a little bit of freedom to do it. But that kid is here for mops. He does childcare. He does mopettes. He does children's church. He does. I mean, the kid's all over the church serving. And I'm only saying it because he's not here, and I'm not trying to lift Danny up in any special way. He's just a kid that I've noticed doing it. Right? Does that make sense? What is your role? How are you participating in church ministry? Some of you are saying this. Well, Pastor Jack, you haven't told me about it. Please be reminded of this. Your faith cannot be dependent on my work. It can't be. If your faith is dependent on my teaching and my putting you into a program, then your faith isn't your faith. Your faith is my work only. There are so many ways that as a teenager in this church you can be involved. That you can help us as a body be healthy. There's so many ways. I remember when my older kids, were in younger grades. I used to plead for the youth group to be involved discipling the younger kids. Just praying that somebody would grab a hold of my kids the way I was grabbing a hold of other kids. And unfortunately, the youth groups have never done that. We go to Honduras to do that. For the week of VBS, we do that. But for the 360 other days a year, we're not doing a real good job. We're not doing a real good job. And guys, again, I'll say this over and over again. You cannot depend on me to put you in some kind of a program. You've got to reach out. You've got to begin to take your faith seriously. Do something with it. Let's move on. Move on. So, I deny myself. It's an expectation of
Serving.
Oh, that was weak. I deny myself. It's an expectation of
Serving.
Then I take up my cross. It's an expectation of
Suffering.
I do not know how to express this. I do not know how to express this to you. We live in an affluent church in America. I don't know how to tell you to suffer for Jesus. I really don't. Anything that I'm going to use, somebody's dad is in this room, is going to be in another country this week, and is going to see something very different, very real, that I can't express to you. Let's look. Oh, let's go back up. Sorry. I thought I had my next point on that. So, taking up my cross. Here's just a couple quick questions. Number one, am I covert or am I overt about my faith? You like that? Rhymed. I did that myself. Am I covert or am I overt about my faith? Am I the kind of Christian that hides it so that people don't know about it? Or am I the kind of Christian that just lives the way Christ would desire me to live, and people can't help but notice that about me? You don't have to be obnoxious to be overt. There's that one too, right? The obnoxious one, where it doesn't matter if they're talking about Jesus or Mickey Mouse. You don't want to hear about it because they're gonna be over the top, right? What we're talking about is just living in a way that people know. I will never forget when I made the decision to become real about my faith as a junior in high school. I lost all but one friend in high school at a Christian school. I got real about my faith. Now, in the defense of some of those kids, I didn't really lose them. I just hadn't gained them yet. Because they were kind of waiting back, sitting, saying, okay, is he just going to be a complete hypocrite? Like, what's the deal with Jack? Because I knew him last year, and the way he's acting this year is not the way he was acting last year. Right? So they were kind of getting a feel for me. They were trying to, and then eventually some of those friends kind of came in and surrounded me a little bit. But the reality is this: I was at a Christian school standing up for Jesus Christ, and all my friends went, God. God. That was my experience with being overt with my faith. Didn't happen to me in public school, by the way. Number two, do I blame God or seek His hand or see His hand in difficulty in my life? Do I blame God or see His hand in difficulty in my life? There was this kid, Steve, when I lived in Michigan. He's probably in his 30s now. No, he is definitely in his 30s now. He was 18 when I was like 22. And I was trying to disciple this guy. He was in the local public school. He was a wrestler. I got to know him through wrestling. He came to church. He sang at church. He's a good kid. I mean, like a really, really nice kid. Decent wrestler, good singer, but just a nice guy. And he lived in the trailer park in the town that I was pastoring. And you have to understand, in the Midwest, there's no ghetto. There's trailer parks. Like it's a transition off. They don't do ghetto. They do trailer parks. And it really, really low income. You guys would look at some of those and you would think, wow, that doesn't seem livable, Pastor Jack. And those are still the same trailers that were there 20 years ago when I pastored there. Lived in a trailer park. His parents were in the middle of an ugly divorce. I'm pretty confident that probably there was some kind of abuse going on in the house. And as all that was kind of swirling around in his life as a senior, trying to talk through him. Hey, you know what? Hang in there. God does care about you. God does care about your suffering. He understands it. He's a high priest that understands your weaknesses because he went through that kind of stuff. Steve just crumbled. And he was gone. Never to be found again. I mean, he would avoid me like in the hallways at the public school because I used to be in that school all the time. And he'd avoid me in the hallways. He'd see me and like dart into a classroom, like dive out windows and things like that. I mean, just gone. Just gone. Because he didn't understand this part, guys, of God's call to be his child. So understand, this is God's call to you to be his child. Number one, deny yourself. It's an expression of, an expectation of serving. Take up your cross, an expectation of suffering. Last one, let's look at the last one. Follow Christ. It's an expectation of submission. Okay. Deny myself, an expectation of serving. Take up my cross, an expectation of suffering. Follow Christ, an expectation of submission. This is really easy, you guys. This is the easy one. The suffering side is hard because we live in such an affluent world here in South Jersey. Submission is easy to pinpoint because here's the deal. Your submission to authority in your life is a complete and total reflection of your submission to God. I think I have a statement like that. Do I have a statement like that? No, I don't. Okay. My submission to God is reflected by my human relationships. Okay, so do you want to know whether or not you're ready to be submissive to God? Whether you fit the call of God. So let's look at it. Number one, we have church leaders. Somebody on this side, read that, please.
Obey your leaders and submit to them, for they are keeping watch over your souls, as those who will have to give an account. Let them do this with joy and not with groaning, for that would be of no advantage.
If you are coming to youth group and avoiding leaders because you're trying to get away with something, that communicates your submission to God. That communicates your relationship to God. If you're encouraging or allowing others to do the same thing, covering for them, it communicates very clearly your relationship with God. If you are sneaking out of church to come play the drums or play basketball or just not be in church, clear communication, guys. Clear communication. There's no two-way, there's no yeah buts about it. Let's go on. Our authorities. These are general authorities. These are people like teachers, bosses, I don't know, safety crossing ladies. Right? Whoever it is that's an authority in your life. So let's get somebody on this side to read these two verses. Somebody willing to read these two verses over here? Please.
For by him all things were created, in heaven and on earth, visible and invisible, whether thrones or dominions or rulers or authorities. All things were created through him and for him.
All right, now hold on right there. Understand this. Did you guys read that? Authorities were created through Jesus and for his purpose. All authorities. Go ahead, Katie, if you don't mind reading the next one.
Remind them to be submissive to rulers and authorities, to be obedient, to be ready for every good work.
Okay. If you gossip, complain, slander a teacher, we'll just use teacher, that's good enough. You've done that to a teacher, you've communicated your submission to God. God, I am not submissive to you. I want what I want when I want it. Now, please understand, do I get when teachers are brutal? I do. So how should we handle a brutal teacher? What do you think? Pray for them? Yeah? Extend grace to them? Give me some more. Talk to them? Give me some more. How about pray about it? Pray for strength. Talk to your parents, but not complaining. Say, Mom and Dad, I'm having this problem. I don't think it's me. This teacher has a rough reputation, but I'm feeling it right now. And I'm not sure what to do, but I want to honor God in it. Doesn't that sound different from, that stupid teacher gave me a 72, and I was the second highest grade in their class. Who do they think they are? I've heard that conversation. Heard that conversation. Let's go on. Government. This doesn't hit you guys a whole lot. So I'll read it. Let every person be subject to governing authorities, but there's no authority except from God, and those that exist have been instituted by God. Therefore, whoever resists his authority resists what God has appointed, and those who resist will incur judgment. So don't resist arrest for a multitude of reasons. And if you're a driver and you get caught speeding, like I do from time to time, don't complain about it. You're speeding. You broke the law. You deserve the ticket. Okay? So there's going to be some more smoking, drinking. I'm really hoping that we don't have people doing that in here. But if you're doing that, forget the whole moral issue, forget the whole health issue, forget the whole your body's a temple issue. The government says don't do it. You're sinning. And you're communicating your relationship with God in the way you're doing that. Okay, last one. This is the hard one. Somebody on this side, can we read two for me, please? Somebody willing to do that? Great, and then the last one? Okay. Guys, I don't know how many times I could say this to you, but I need you to understand. You can't go to God with, but you don't understand my parents. The answer is this. God gave you your parents. God gave your parents you. And if you willingly lift your voice at them, yell at them, argue with them, contradict them on purpose, if you are not submissive to their authority, even when they're unfair, and please understand this, parents know they're unfair. I'm unfair. I do unfair parenting things. I don't do it so that I can put my thumb over my children and say, ha ha ha, I'm in control. I do it because I'm a nincompoop, and it sometimes comes out when I'm parenting. And I can tell you for the most part, and I think the girls and Jamie would agree with you, that most of the time when I'm confronted in a way like this, hey Dad, I really don't think that was fair. Can I talk to you about it? I'm all ears. But when it's, I can't, like, are you a car starting up? What are you? When it's that, or when kids are like, first of all, you do look that silly. Secondly, what is that? Why are we doing that? Do you think God is pleased with that? Listen, the way you respond to your parents every single time tells Jesus whether you love him and serve him or not. Pastor Jack, my parents are just, they're unreasonable. Then God is training you for your future. Perhaps he's training you for an unreasonable boss one day. Perhaps he's training you because he wants you to be the boss and know what it's like to be unreasonable one day. Maybe you're going to have a college professor that's completely a dimwit and cannot think straight and is going to be completely unfair to all of his students. And he's getting you ready for that. I don't know what it is. But the truth is this. The truth is this. God knows every thought that you have before it's on your lips. God knows every hair on your head, even when it's like a rotating number with me. God knows every day of your life, every breath you're going to breathe. He has captured every tear that you're going to cry in a bottle. He knows you. And he gave you your parents. Now, all that said, if you're suffering from abuse, please come talk to me. We'll handle that. I've dealt with that in the past. I don't ever want a student to deal with abuse. But the truth is, probably 100%, maybe 99% of you are not dealing with abuse. What you're dealing with is a parent that you don't agree with because you want what you want when you want it. Guys, can I just challenge you? You will be part of the 82% if you're going for the candy. If all you think about is the candy, you will be part of the 82% that walks away from the church, not because the church failed them, not because youth ministry stinks, not because the church is archaic and they don't understand. You walk away from the church because you're not a child of God. That's why. Listen, church has failed me, it's going to fail you. It's made of people. Can I tell you this? I've failed the church, and I'm going to do it again. And so will you. But I want to be a part of a body that works with that. I want to be a part of an organism that is healthy enough to manage that. I want to be a child of the King. I want to be real. Where are you? Let's go to the last slide. Are you serving? Are you prepared for suffering? Are you living in submission? Because these are the marks, guys. These are the marks of what a child of God looks like, according to God.